A tenant is claiming that she was scammed by a fake landlord who took $1,000 for the first month rent and $1,000 security deposit from her. But I don't quite believe it. There's too many holes in her story. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's going over one of these cases where we have this tenant who's claiming that they were scammed by this so-called or supposed fake landlord. And I just don't believe it, okay? There have been too many cases that I've, actually covered on this channel where the tenant themselves is the scammer. They break into the house or they find some way to gain access to the house. They move their stuff in and then they pretend as though, well, I had a lease. I shouldn't have to go anywhere. Well, that's just not the case. A lot of these tenants are just scammers. I'm not saying that's the case in this situation. That's just what I believe it to be. Okay. Now, the people who wrote the article, yeah, they're all on her side. They seem to side with her. They don't seem to have any sort of common sense whatsoever. Okay, they don't seem to have any sort of common sense. So it blows my mind that they would even think that without any evidence that she is not a scammer. Okay, basically, you're gonna have to prove to me that hey, you're the real deal, and I still might not believe it because these sort of situations, they're just too unusual, and the property owner deserves to have their property and rent it to whoever they want, not be stuck with some scammer in their place. So anyway, let's get into this article. It's kind of an interesting story. The story is coming from WCPO.com, and it says, first, she was scammed by a fake landlord. Now she's being evicted. A Cincinnati woman is the latest victim of the rental scam. Yeah, and they're calling her a victim. Maybe there's more to the story. Maybe I missed something, but I'm not seeing it. Okay, they have a video that goes with this article. I'll play that for you right now.
But then came a knock on the door from a woman who claimed Latasha didn't belong here.
She got a showing here at this apartment. I said, I live here. She said, no, there's nobody supposed to live here.
Turns out she gave a $1,000 deposit and another $1,000 for rent to a fake landlord who she found in a Facebook posting.
I gave me and my kids money, thinking we got a home.
This is so unusual because typically a rental scammer will post a fake ad, then take a deposit for an apartment they don't really own. It's pretty much unheard of for them to give the tenant a key and say, go ahead, move in.
She was scared. I mean, they've just told her that her home isn't hers and she doesn't have anywhere to go.
All right, you saw the video. Let's get into the article. You may have heard of the rental scam where fake landlords take a prospective tenant's deposit money, then disappear. But one Cincinnati woman says a fake landlord handed her the key to an apartment and allowed her to move in. Now the real landlord is demanding that she move out immediately. Latasha Crosty took us through her dream apartment in Price Hill that she has spent the last 2 weeks furnishing, from the living room to the outdoors. She even had cable and internet set up, put up curtains, and purchased patio furniture for the outside. But then came a knock on the door from a woman who claimed she was about to show the apartment to a possible renter. She said, I am here for a showing, Crosty said, but I told her that I live here. She said, no, I don't, and no one is supposed to be living here. So, a couple of questions. First of all, does this lady actually have a lease? Okay, that's a big question right there because they did not mention that yet. Okay, did she sign a lease? And if she did not, then where is it? Like if you're telling the truth that you were rented this apartment and you're not a scammer, then you should have at least a fake lease. Now I know a lot of these scammers they'll just type up their own lease and make up a name on it just so that they have some sort of evidence, right? But you would think that they would mention that, oh well, she does have a lease. They would mention that in the first couple of paragraphs, but no, they didn't. Okay, so maybe she doesn't even have a lease. But anyway, let's continue. The woman accused Crosty of being a squatter and said her company would begin eviction proceedings. Who did she really rent from? It turns out Krusty gave a $1,000 deposit and another $1,000 for the first month of rent to a fake landlord who she met on the street and who said he had some apartments to rent out. So she stopped over to see the apartment, loved it, and immediately gave a down payment. Now, this is a bunch of garbage, okay? Anybody who has rented an apartment at any point in time knows that one, you're not just randomly giving $1,000 to somebody you just met, okay? There's a process that you go through, even when you're renting informally. If you don't know somebody, especially though, you better have yourself an application that you put in. You better have a lease. You don't just, hey, is this place for rent? You're just walking down the street and you see an empty place. And then some guy, hey, this place is for rent. And then you just, oh, here's $1,000. That's why I'm saying there's so many holes in this lady's story. Okay, it's a bunch of garbage, and she's gotten this newspaper or whoever wrote this article to somehow believe her. What a joke! I mean, it sounds ridiculous even thinking about it. You meet somebody on the street and then you immediately give them $1,000. Okay, there was no $1,000. First of all, are you carrying around $1,000 in your pocket? No. No, what the heck, okay? If you wrote a check, let's see the check, who you wrote it to. Oh, you don't have it? So you just happen to have $1,000 money order in your pocket? What? Where is any of this coming from? It's a joke. It's ridiculous, okay? And the fact that he had the key, oh, well, you know what? That doesn't mean anything. You don't even know this supposed landlord's name? You don't know the name of the person you were supposed to be paying rent to. Come on. And you expect us to believe this. Okay? Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you have return checks. Maybe you've got a lease. Maybe all this stuff, you have in your possession. And this is a true story. And you're just a moron, by the way, because only a moron would have even thought that this was a realistic situation. But there's a small, tiny, less than 1% chance that that's true. I gave him, me, and my kids money thinking we got a home, Krusty said. This case is unusual because typically a rental scammer posts a fake ad, then takes a deposit for an apartment they don't really own and vanishes into the night. It's almost unheard of for them to give the tenant a key that works in the door and then tell the victim to go ahead and move in. Yeah, it is unheard of because it doesn't happen. Okay? This isn't real. This is a lie that this lady is telling. And she scammed even the people from the newspaper. Now, I don't know where she got the key. Maybe it was in a lockbox that was on the house. Or maybe somebody else had the key, former tenant or whatever, and said, hey, just go ahead and move in. But simple truth is that, I just don't believe this lady. But let me continue with this article because, these people are dumb. But that's what apparently happened. Neighbor Kyla Moulton, along with Cincinnati legal aid, are now seeing what they can do to help Krusty stay. She's scared, Moulton said. She gave someone $2,000, all she had. Now they've told her that her home isn't hers. She doesn't have anywhere to go. Krusty and Moulton have already asked the property managers if she could sign a legitimate lease and stay, but did not get any response. We called and visited the property management company, Fortune Vine Realty, but could not find anyone to talk. And they're not going to let her stay. I wouldn't let her stay either, okay? There's huge questions around this lady, and I guarantee you run her credit, you're going to see some big problems, big things in her background, in her criminal history, or in her eviction history, big things that would make her a no-go as a tenant. I guarantee it. Okay? I'm psychic. I can see into her right now and tell you that she is not a good tenant. Okay? This is her scam of trying to get into the place. And if they don't immediately evict her, well, they're going to have to evict her eventually because she's not going to pay or she's going to rip the place apart or whatever. Okay? So get rid of her now while you still can. The office was locked and no one returned our voicemail, but the managers are still active because 1 week after we first met with Krusty, she says she found a notice to leave the premises taped to her door. It was not a court order, but Krusty worries she could be evicted at any moment. She cannot believe the nice man who showed her the apartment gave her a lease to sign, and took her money was really a fraud. The only thing I know is I trusted someone I thought was genuine, she said. I never would have thought in a million years this man wasn't what he said he was. You know what? It said right there that she did have a lease. So, you know what? Put the lease up. Let's see what the lease looks like. Okay? I'm just curious. What does this lease look like? If you don't know how to rent an apartment, I don't know what to tell you. Okay. As a landlord, even before I owned my first property, I knew the process to go through to rent places because I've rented several places before on my own. Even the first time, I was very cautious because I was worried about losing my money. You're telling me this lady here, who is, she's older than I am, doesn't know how to, she's probably rented a dozen places throughout her life and she's never gone through a formal, application process before? Give me a break. What a joke. And then here is the information that I was looking for. It now appears the fake landlord may have gotten the key from a lockbox on the door, or the apartment had simply been left unlocked by the owner and he put a new lock on it. An investigation by the Detroit independent news outlet Outlier Media found this scam is becoming widespread in lower income areas of Detroit, where fake landlords now usher new tenants into vacant homes and apartments they don't really own. And you know what? It's possible. It's possible for sure, right? But there's just so many holes in this story. I don't believe it, and even if it is true, okay, even if it's true, this lady's got to go. I only want tenants that I personally put into the unit myself, that I personally vet, and I don't feel sorry for her. Okay? That is her problem, not mine as the landlord. She was capable of paying $1,000 a month rent. Well, what if the rent on this place is $1,500? Is the property manager or the landlord just supposed to take that $500 a month loss? Just that's part of the reason. What if she's got 10 evictions on her history? What if she's got horrible credit? What if she never pays her debts off? Okay? What if she has a son who lives with her, a grown adult son who is a convicted criminal? Okay? I mean, there's 1,000 reasons why I just don't want to rent to this lady, and I'm not going to waste my time trying to figure out any of that. Instead, she's got to go.